Greetings duelists, and welcome to another video. So last time in the channel we were talking about how to prepare for the next upcoming format. One of the things that I did on that video was talking about the different types of decks that exist in the game, which ones have been like meta defining, and basically what decks to look out for when it comes to like the future formats. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to do the same guide, but I'm going to do it with a different scope of lens. What do I mean by that? Today's video is going to be talking about card quality and what makes a deck exactly meta or not meta. What you see here on the screen is the complete card list for Beyond the Brave. Shout out to Card Cluster. In here, you see like a lot of different cards, and you probably noticed from the last video, I did not talk about that many cards, right? I talked about the Time Wizard cards. I talked about like the hero support. I talked about like a few cards here and there. But what happened to the other cards that are in here, right? Like the first example I want to bring up is the Umi archetype, or the Umi control deck, or like, you know, Umi as a whole. So I have good news and bad news. The good news is, you know, we keep getting cards for legacy archetypes that kind of do define the identity of those decks. The bad news is some of the quality behind these cards do not meet up to the standards of today's metagame. And I think it's really important for you to like learn and pick up those trends whenever you want to look into a deck for the future, because that's going to be your investment. You want to make sure that whatever deck you pick or deck you choose for the upcoming format or the next format to come have a few different criterias. Criteria number one, you want it to be have a good longevity. Like, it's not worth it to pick a deck that you don't know that it's not gonna last in the meta for like 6 months, right? Second criteria, you want the deck that has a really competitive edge over like either today's metagame or maybe a metagame that's suited for the future. The third thing you want in your deck, and this is something I brought up with the last video, you kind of want your deck to be unique at what it does. Like, if you're not going to pick up a meta contending strategy, whatever deck you pick has to have a really good surprise factor. Whatever surprise factor that is going to help you like have an advantage over your opponent, because it means that your opponent has to think left and right whether or not their non-engine can be suited against your deck. Now, if you've been on my channel before, you know that I love playing rogue decks. Like, I've been playing a lot of rogue strategies for the past couple of months, last couple of years. I always try to either stay away from meta or give a unique twist to whatever meta strategy that I'm playing. That way, I have that slow competitive edge over my opponent, and maybe catch them by surprise to a point where I can just like end up winning an event because of it. Not every deck is meant to do that in long term, so it's not a good idea to stick into a rogue deck for too long, or a surprise factor of a deck for too long, unless you are really, really good with the deck that you're playing. So with that being said, let's summarize the Umi cards real quick, then talk about what this archetype and this deck is supposed to do, and whether or not this deck suits today's standards for the meta. So The Yumi control deck or the Yumi strategy received 10 cards. Out of those 10 cards, you got a counter trap, 3 spells, 2 link monsters, and 4 main deck monsters. Let's read all the cards and then we'll talk about, you know, the choice that they made with picking all these cards. So, if we read Daedalus, the card pretty much reads if you control Umi or the new field spell, you can special summon this card. This card becomes Umi Walls on the monster zone. You can send up to 3 Umi you control to a graveyard, add an equal number of cards that mention Atlantean, the Dragon City from your deck to your hand. Then you can send 1 card on the field to the graveyard. We'll read the rest of the cards and then we'll go back to this one. General of Atlantis. You can discard this card, add a spell or trap that mentions the Atlantis, the Dragon City. This card becomes Umi Walls in the monster zone. If this card's in your graveyard and you control Umi, you can special summon this card. Monstrous Arms of Atlantis. If this card's normal special summon, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard that just mentions Atlantis. And special summon in defense position. This card becomes Umi Walls in the monster zone. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, then send 1 face-up Umi, negate that effect. Fiendish Vortex of Atlantis. If this card is normal special summon, you can send 1 card that mentions Atlantis, Dragon City, from your deck to graveyard, except Vortex. Her name's treated as Yumi while in the monster zone. If this card is sent to a graveyard and you control Umi, you can special summon a water monster from your hand. Blue Ocean Dragon Lord Neo Daedalus Rage. It is a Link 4 monster. It requires 4 monsters. If this card is Link Summon, you can special summon up to 3 monsters that mentions the Dragon City. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of your turn. This card's name becomes Umi while in the monster zone. Once per turn, you can send 1 face-up Umi you control to a graveyard. Send all cards on the field to a graveyard except Umi. Levia Dragon or Levia Dragoon, Daedalus. 3 water monsters. If this card is Link Summon, you can special summon 1 monster that mentions the Atlanteans, the Dragon City from your deck. This card's name becomes Umi while on the field. During the main phase, you can send 1 face-up Umi you control to a graveyard. Your opponent discards their entire hand, and if they do, they draw the same amount. Neither player can activate cards or response to this effect's activation. Atlantis, the Dragon City. The levels of monsters both players' hands and fields are decreased by 1, while you control a monster that mentions Atlantis, the Dragon City. You can Link Summon Daedalus with 1 less material, reduce the number of materials by 1. If this card's in your graveyard, you control Umi, you can place this card face-up on your field. Atlantis Call. Add 1 monster that mentions Atlantis, the Dragon City from your deck to your hand. Then if you control Atlantis, Dragon City, you can negate the effects of 1 effect monster you control or controls until the end of this turn. If you control Umi, and you can banish this card from your graveyard, all water monsters you control gain 5/5. Atlantis Advent. This card becomes Umi while face on the field. During your main phase, you can place 1 Atlantis, the Dragon City, or Umi from your deck to your face-off field zone. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 7 Sea Serpent monster from your deck to your hand. Daedalus Maelstrom. You can only activate 1 of these cards each effect once per turn. When your opponent would special summon or normal summon a monster while you control the Dragon City, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy the monster. Then if you control a water link monster, you can destroy all non-water monsters on the field. You can banish this card from your graveyard, send 1 face-up Umi you control to your graveyard, then target 1 monster you control and send it to your graveyard. Okay, so now we read all the cards. What is my verdict behind this archetype? And because I actually had people commenting on my last video thinking what did I thought about these cards. So essentially what you have here is an upgrade to Atlanteans or to the Umi deck. What you want to do as your win condition is just summon the Link 4 monster and have it backed up by the trap card. And you have two ways of doing that. Either you control all the Umi monsters on the field or the Umi clones and just use them to like cement card advantage against your opponent, or you can go the Atlantean route and just facilitate the summon of your monsters while using the Atlantean monsters as the backbone of your engine to just like surmount against your opponent. So there are a few problems with this in the context of the TCG. So problem number one. These cards are really reliant on the Atlantis Dragon City card. This card is pretty much like the most important card for them. If this card doesn't stick to the board, like, you know, it's kind of hard for you to like win the game. Now, I have another problem. Why does this card not treat it as Umi? We had all other Umi cards, and we have cards that tutor Umi cards, and we have cards that rely on Umi cards. Why can't this card be an Umi card? Like, you know, that would have made things a lot better. Why does this field spell only have a floodgate effect? Like, you know, it has the ability for you to summon your Link monsters a lot easier. But here's the problem. Like, your Link monsters are already hard to summon, like, to begin with. So, you know, even with the level or like the rank or the Link modulation of this card, like the Link already modulation of this card, you are still wasting a couple of cards in order for your payoff. Your payoff is this card, bringing back your other Umi clones. And what you're getting out of it is pretty much a monster negate, another monster negate, or a summon negate rather, a shuffle back from hand, like, and I think that's it, right? Like, there's no other things to be worried about with this deck. Like, there's not really that many disruptions. Now, if we go back here, the Atlantean engine really works well with this deck because it kind of gives you a lot of surplus bodies that you can do in order for your Daedalus win condition. But I have a few other problems with that as well. Daedalus Rage locks you into no more special summons after you bring back your monsters, which means you have to pick and choose what engine are you going for. Are you going to summon your Synchro monsters? Are you going to summon the XYZ monsters that are shown here? Are you going to summon the Daedalus Rage? Like, you have an identity crisis, like, with this deck. Like, your M boards are not going to be really well crafted with this one. Now, let's talk about another thing, right? If your deck is not unique enough and the M board that you're making with your deck is not amazing or has a little bit of redundancy, what is another win condition in your deck? Because if you see the amount of non-engine here, like, the quality of non-engine that you can play in this deck is good. Like, Perulia is a welcome card in this deck just because it's a water monster that you can use. This deck can play Dominus Impulse, which is a really strong hand trap. But Dominus Impulse is already semi-limited in the OCG. You're not going to draw that card, like, immediately. And, you know, I see all the other cards that are in here, and I'm thinking, like, are the hand traps good enough to like surmount your board? Like, and I don't think it is. Another thing I want to bring up, and you're seeing it already with this deck list, the combos in the OCG are slightly better than in the TCG because we do have Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark is currently in the forbidden list by the time of this recording in the TCG. And I don't think we're going to get back Bahamut Shark unless they actually really want to promote this deck, which by all means they can do it, but I don't know if it's good enough for today's standards. Yeah, so my final consensus is you're facing Rolad, Elf Note, Cool Tune with this deck. Can this strategy beat all those other decks? I think Elf Note is better because, you know, if we're going to categorize this deck, this is basically a heavy combo deck. You are comboing off with your Atlantean and your Umi cards. You're basically trying to get to your Neo Daedalus Rage. This combo does not play well into hand traps. Like, you're going to get hand trapped to death before getting to your Daedalus. If you get Moonshine Reed, there's no real half board you can make with this deck either. Yes, they do have a counter trap, but like I don't think the counter trap scene is enough. Like this counter trap already requires setup. Like you need to control the Atlantean the Dragon City for this card. And for the bonus effect, you need a Water Link monster. So if you got Mochami Lost, for example, you're already committing for this card, which is kind of turns off the selling point of this card to begin with. Atlantis Advent, I think, is a really good card for the purpose of this deck. But here's the thing: this is not a starter. Atlantean Call is technically a starter. This is not a starter either. None of these are starters except General of Atlantis. And General of Atlantis just adds you like a spell, right? So, like, Daedalus requiring the Atlantean the Dragon City, Atlantis the Dragon City, or Umi is quite of a nice touch. It does require Umi. You can just summon this under Umi. But, you know, this card doesn't do anything outside of just, like, giving you more cards. Like just giving you more cards, right? Like, you know, if you read most of these cards, the only real interruption you have is, like, Monster's Arms. Neo Daedalus Rage has a really very interesting effect. You know, you can just send Umi to the graveyard in order to board wipe, and it's technically not a real board wipe because you do get to keep your Umi monsters. But yeah, like. This card sends all cards to the graveyard, which means it'll send your Atlantis the Dragon City as well. Because, well, actually no, it gets to keep it because that card is treated as Umi. But wait, that card is not treated as Umi. Yeah, I'm right. So yeah, like this card is not treated as Umi. So the moment you activate Neo Daedalus Rage, this card goes to the graveyard. Yeah. So the main takeaway from this is whenever you see a new archetype, try to evaluate the archetype from the big lens. What amount of non-engine can you play? Can you play good non-engine? Can this deck play through non-engine? Is this deck unique in its win condition? Do you rely on older cards for them? Like, looking at this list, and this is not the only list out there. You have the pure build, you have a Marensis build, you have like an ice barrier build of this deck as well. You have a Mermail Atlantean hybrid as well that uses a few Mermail cards as well. I don't think those cards are good enough right now. Like, I don't see you beating Rolad playing this deck. Like, and no offense to the Umi Atlantean players. If you guys know what are you doing with your deck, that's perfectly fine. I did bring up at one point in the video, you have to be a specialist in order to like pick up a rogue deck like this one, or something below rogue like in standards. I want to talk about one other card here, and that is Coriolanetect Next. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Shimmering Shining Dragon. This is an indirect support card for the Umi deck. And let's read the support card. If this card is added to the hand, except by drawing it, you can reveal it and one other water monster from your hand. Special summon both. You cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except water monsters. Your opponent cannot target water link monsters you control with card effects while you control Umi. This card was so short from being good, and I'll explain. The big problem, I have a couple of problems with this card. The first thing I want to say is we're comparing this card to Astrasma Urania, which was the indirect support card for Blitzclick, Princess Dracania, the Thirsting Tree, which was the indirect support card for Predaplant. You got China, the Twin Tempest of Celestial Thunder, which was the indirect support card for Radiant Typhoon. I think if you read the card quality behind every other card, they're all above this one. And I'll explain. In order for Sheena to activate, you just need to control a wind monster. Sheena is arguably one of the better indirect support cards for an archetype or a deck attribute that we've had in the game for a while. This card is worth playing in any deck that just plays a lot of wind monsters. This card is pretty much a staple. Astrasma Urania. This card is an okay card in Blitzclick. This card was meant for Blitzclick because it is a thunder monster. But essentially, this card can be played anywhere. And the thing about Astrasma is the card itself might not read really strong, but this card at least is very versatile in what it does. Like, it's a perma-negate that activates on summon. It negates depending on the cards, the amount of cards that you bounce to your hand. It is an inherent summon to summon this card. So, pretty much the same as like Conduction Warrior Linear Magnum, if you remember that. Like, this card is meant to play through boards going second. But if you're playing Blitzclick, you can also summon this on your opponent's turn as well. Let's take the Dracania. This card locks you into plants and dragons, but this card is a really good card for plants. Like, for cost, you just send a plant to your graveyard, and this already like enables like your archetype. This is a really good starter for the Predaplant deck. Now let's go back to Coriolanetect, right? So, problem number one. You have to add this card in order to activate its hand effect. That already makes this card a brick if you end up opening it, or you end up drawing into this card. It needs another water monster in your hand, so if this card's by itself, it doesn't do anything either. The water lock, I don't particularly mind it too much. This card is meant for water decks. But Again, we go back to the part where this card is a very conditional and also can be a brick. The last thing is your opponent cannot target water link monster you control with this card's effect while you control Umi. So this card just protects your link monsters. It doesn't protect all of your monsters as a whole. This card requires Umi in order for you to do that. How is an indirect support card that is meant for a water deck reliant on Umi? Like, please make me understand that. Now you're understanding the quality behind this card and how weak it is in comparison to all of the other ones. So, yeah. Now that I talked about the Umi deck, I want to pick up another example. I know this video is already long enough as is, but I want to make people understand and summarize and conceptualize where I'm going with this when I'm talking about the card quality behind certain archetypes and what makes them rogue or meta. And the second example that I'm going to pick up is Umbral Horror. For those who don't know, Umbral Horror is a sexual archetype back from like 2013, I think it was. It was very long ago. They've been given 9 support cards, and 9 is a really big number, right? Let's summarize the monsters real quick. You got Chaining Umbral Horror, which special summons can special summon itself if you normal or special summon another Umbral Horror while this card's already in your hand. Then upon summon, you can draw a card, and if you draw an Umbral Horror, you can special summon it. If this card's treated as 2 materials, this card can be treated as 2 materials for an XYZ of a number monster that requires 3 or more materials. We'll go back to this card in a bit. V Umbral Horror, upon summon, add an Umbral Horror monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target and Masquerade XYZ monster. Special summon from your extra deck a number monster that is exactly 1 rank higher than that monster. Gorgonic Umbral Horror. If you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Umbral Horrors, you can special summon this card, and if you do, add a non-rock Umbral Horror. This one's a spellcaster and this one's a fiend. So, pretty good diversity there. 1000 Umbral Horror. You can send this card from your hand or field to a graveyard. Place 1 7th variance card from your field into your field zones face up. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck until the end of your next turn, except XYZ monsters. If an XYZ monster is special summoned while this card's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. Take no damage from card effects for the rest of this turn. Number 104, Masquerade Vein. This requires 3 level 4 monsters. Detachment material, add a variant spell or trap. A monster XYZ summon with this card gains this following effect. Activate this effect, your opponent can banish 4 monsters with different attributes and 1 spell from their deck. If they do not, you banish the top 10 cards out of their deck. Masquerade Umbral Horror Victory. 4 level 5 monsters, you're never summoning it that way. Detachment material from this card, then target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it. In this card, battles an opponent's monster, except by damage calculation. You can make this card's attack and defense equal or become your opponent's attack or defense, whichever is higher, plus 100. If this card destroys a monster by battle, send 1 random card from their hand to your graveyard, and if you do, you have their life points. CXYC Chaos Variant Hope Dragon. You can also special summon this card using a sea monster you control. Gains 1,000 attack for each material. Your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to their hand, while this card has number C as a material, except drawing them. Once per turn, detach one material from this card. Attach the top 2 cards from your opponent's deck to this card. 7th Variance. This is a field spell. Each player can only special summon non-number monsters from the extra deck while this card is face up twice per turn. During your main phase, you can add 1 Umbral Horror monster from your deck to your hand, then discard 1 card. During the end phase, each player takes 400 for each XYZ monster on the field. Baron's Hope. Special summon Umbral Horror, Masquerade monster, XYZ monster from your hand or graveyard. Then make the level of all Umbral Horror monsters you control become the level of Umbral Horror monsters in your field or graveyard. You can banish this card from your graveyard. Target XYZ monster you control, attach an XYZ number monster. Baron's Seal. When your opponent activates a spell or trap or monster effect and you control a ZXYZ or C monster between 101 and 107, negate activation, and if you do, attach 1 monster from either field or graveyard to your XYZ monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 2 Umbral Horror monsters from your graveyard. Okay, so if you look at this deck and you read the card quality behind all the cards, this deck in a vacuum is really powerful, right? We're basically talking about a rank 4 deck that can summon a Towers monster backed up by a counter trap. Well, it's not a Towers monster, it's basically Thunder King Ryo on legs or Colossus on legs. Basically a one-sided Mistaken Arrest backed up by a Floodgate. Right as the time of this recording, the most popular variant of this deck is mixed with Ryziel. And I'm gonna say this right now, I don't think the card quality behind the Umbral Horror cards are bad, but we have one big problem. This deck looks very scary going first, right? How good is this deck going second? Like, you do have really cool niche tricks. Like, for example, 1000 Umbral Horror is a quick effect. So this essentially, technically, is a hand trap. It's a hand trap that places like 7th Variance. And 7th Variance is pretty cool because it does have the niche Floodgate effect, which makes whatever combo enabler player that is facing against you dueling, having to make a consensus to like their strategy. And not only is this like a pseudo Floodgate against your opponent, this is also a consistency card. So essentially this deck has a good amount of starters. Take note, this is a light Fiend monster and this does not lock you. So there is a world you do Fiendsmith shenanigans. So yeah, if we read Umbral Horror in a vacuum, you have a pseudo splashable archetype. It has a good amount of starters. It has a fair amount of room for non-engine. It has a really solid game plan. Like some people are even playing multiple of the Variant Seal just because of how good the graveyard effect is to just bring back 2 Umbral Horrors. Because this card allows you to do any effect even if it's sent to a graveyard that turn. You can only just use 1 effect in the turn. So be mindful that if you do negate with this card's effect on the field, you do not get to banish it the same turn to just reborn your Umbral Horrors. So, not a bad start, right? I don't think Variance Hope is a playable card. They do play in this list just because of how searchable the card is. This is essentially just searchable Reborn. But yeah. So yeah, my problem with this deck is as good as the quality behind some of the cards are. I did mention that you can play a fair amount of non-engine, but if you think about fair amount, like we got 3 Fua, 2 Ash, 1 Maxi, 1 Droll, and the 3 Umbral Horror, and 3 Imperm. That's what, 13 hand traps? 13 hand traps is not a bad number. Now let's count the starters. You got V Umbral Horror. You got technically Umbral Horror is also is a hand trap, but it's also a starter, which is kind of something very unique to the deck. Like you have your 3 Gorgonic Umbral Horror, which is another good starter. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not an amazing amount of starters, not an amazing amount of hand traps, and you do have a couple bricks. You have Armored XYZ, like you have your rank up like card. You're playing full Armored XYZ in some builds. This is another brick. Baron Seal, this is another brick. I like the Nightmare Throne as a tech. This is technically another starter, but it's a starter that plays into this card. And this card, the difference between playing this card, playing around this card, and playing not around this card is night and day. Yes, the card is limited in the OCG, but there's a reason they're playing it alongside Crossout. Yeah. You do play 7th Tachyon and 7th Ascension, which is another starter. Yeah, my biggest gripe with Umbral Horror at the moment is they don't have good enough tools going second. Going first, I think this deck is phenomenal. They do get to play the new number 101. And you can also, like, just... if you decide to play the Chaos 101, you can just summon on top of it. Which is another really cool thing this deck has going for it. But yeah. Umbral Horror is hard to see as a meta contender, but not for the same reason Umi is not a meta contender. Like, the problems that Umi deck has and the problems Umbral Horror has are 2 different problems. But at the same time, they are 2 problems in general. I would be like to be proven wrong, but judging by OCG metagame results, we haven't seen a lot of Umi, we haven't seen a lot of Atlantean, we haven't seen a lot of Umbral Horror. Which kind of tells you that the card quality, the win condition, and the disparity with non-engine and the engine ratios of these cards are not at the level of the meta contending decks at the moment. Will these cards be good in the future? Would these cards be good in a format where Konami actually balances the other decks? Was there something that could have made these archetypes better? I'll keep prefacing this. If the Oceanic City would have been a Yumi card, that would have helped this deck a lot more than it currently is. Like, if the continuous spell would have been a starter, a real starter, that would have been really good for the deck as well. If we go to Umbral Horror, I think the biggest issue with Umbral Horror is that this deck is extremely good going first, minded that you don't get hand trapped to death, but it's a lot weaker going second. There are no Umbral Horror cards in your engine that just says, I'll play, this card is better going second than it is going first. And that's something Konami is been designing in a lot of decks as of late. I would have preferred if they would have kept doing that for other decks. Making this card a hand trap was a very nice touch on their end. I can tell you this right now, if this card did not have the quick effect, this deck probably would have been even less playable. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you found this informative and to your liking understanding. There is so much to cover involving Beyond the Brave. There are other archetypes and other strategies that I would like to talk about. But, you know, by the time this video is already above 40 minutes long, and I only covered 2 archetypes. But yeah, I hope you found what I said informative to your liking and understanding. My purpose with these videos is for you, the player who is trying to play competitively, to be like as informed about what is to come in the next upcoming months, and just be prepared. But until then, keep practicing and keep dueling.